Hello everyone. Welcome and I'm Other Helmet Guy. For this topic I like to talk about the new Fantastic Four movie that came out. Remember the time where there was a lot of controversy in terms of the trailer on the Fantastic Four, like Silver Surfer changed gender or Johnny Storm had to be toned down because he was a womanizer. It was also mentioned that they were woke things in the film like Sue Storm being a girl boss and being the leader of the Fantastic Four. Now that the feature film is out and most of the things that they said about the movie is not true, which makes it better than it was originally criticized for and could be one of the best MCU in the series this year due to having so many bad MCU movies before that, which so many reviewers gave it high praise because none of the elements were in the film. But my opinion, it still doesn't fix the movie because there are other elements that holds it back, which doesn't make it the best Fantastic Four on screen, and I will explain along the way. I noticed that the Fox Fantastic Four film is very similar to the newer version but complete opposite to each other. Like the new version focus more on the emotional development with the characters in the movie and mostly focus on the baby, to let you know more about them to tell you that are a family. But in the other hand, the Fox version focus more on dynamic of the team, to overcome the differences and issues amongst themselves because they've already learned how to become a team and already had character arcs from the previous movie. It's just they have to work together with the military to deal with an incoming threat as well as dealing with Dr. Doom, the antagonist of the film. Comparing with Mr. Fantastic from the Fox version versus the MCU version. With the MCU of Mr. Fantastic, he is not very confident, sometimes make poor decision making, not the best at coming out of contingency plans, not very tactical, but with one positive is that he is very intelligent with creating devices. With the other issue with the design of the costume is that, I don't know why he has a blue collar instead of a white one just to match his uniform, and as well as having a mustache. If you want to look accurate to the source material, then it needs to be shaved off. With Mr. Fantastic for the Fox is more confident, has more authority amongst his teammates, knows how stand up for himself and come up with brilliant tactics to take down the enemy. But with the negative side is that he's sometimes too obsessed with work that he doesn't think about others most of the time. And with the costume design, it's way too dark that you can barely see the design. But with all this, it's weird that they are the same character but completely different in terms of their personalities. With Invisible Woman for the MC version and Fox, surprisingly, I don't have much to say and that they're only the ones that are similar, but I would say that only difference is that the Fox version is more attractive than the MCU version. My only issue with the MCU version is Invisible Woman making a bad decision going to Galactus with the team while she's pregnant, which was one of the most terrible decisions that she's ever done, and Mr. Fantastic should have put his foot down and said no because the situation was too dangerous. Even if her role was to make the ship invisible, Mr. Fantastic could have created a device to make the ship invisible without her being there. With the Johnny Storm version of their MCU and Fox, I would say that with the Fox version is that he is an adrenaline junkie, a ladies' man, a bit of a rebel and a prankster. With the positives, that he cares a lot about the team when he is most needed, he listens to the teammates in serious moments, whenever he makes mistakes he finds ways to fix them and change the way he behaves. It's good to have a character that balanced out the pros and cons of their development throughout their arc. With the MCU version of Johnny Storm is that, he's more obedient, bit more shy, quite intelligent, selfless and a good teammate. With the negatives is that he shows off a bit too much, and there is nothing much to say. Which isn't good because he's not much of a character if he hasn't got any flaws, even though they took away much of them because they find it offensive. And lastly, with Ben Grimm the Thing, the Fox version and the MCU version. With the Fox of Ben Grimm, is that when he first became the Thing, he was very angry and depressed due to his fiancée leaving him, because of his appearance which he feels like he lost everything, and Reed Richards decided to help him change back to normal. Due to him losing his patience, he made a deal with Dr. Doom and became back to normal. But he felt like he became powerless to protect his teammates and decides to become the Thing again and learned how to overcome this appearance by moving on. With his positive and negatives, he's more outgoing, lively, has a bit of a temper, has a lot of banter with Johnny Storm, and likes to do heavy lifting as a hobby. With his appearance, he doesn't look like anything from the comics, but the only thing they got right was his gruffy voice, Brooklyn accent and his personality. With the MCU of Ben Grimm, it doesn't have much of a character arc, but with his pros and cons. With pros, he's more chilled, not bothered about his appearance, a bit shy, friendly towards people and caring. With the cons, not much to say, that's all you're getting, he's just a friendly giant trope similar to Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy. The only difference is that he speaks a full sentence. With his appearance, I would say he looks very close to the comic book version. The only downside is that he's a bit small, but other than that, no issues. Again, I like the way that some of the characters are complete opposites to each other in terms of their personality but less in character development. With the other characters, like the Silver Surfer with the Fox version in the MCU. With the Fox of the Silver Surfer, he looks exactly like he was straight out of the comics, no issues there. In a movie, he was extremely powerful but has to rely on the board to do anything, which was the only con, because in the comics, he's already powerful, but he doesn't need the board to do anything. He can still use his powers without it, as well as Sue Storm convincing him to not destroy Earth, but was later convinced that he should not let Galactus destroy Earth, because Sue Storm reminded him of his wife before he became the Herald of Galactus. As Sue Storm almost dies from Doctor Doom, Silver Surfer heals her from death, and confront Galactus by teleporting far away from Earth. But with the MCU of Silver Surfer, they did a gender change with no good reason, even though it could be possibly being a love interest for Johnny Storm, but the issue with that is that it dilutes the original identity of the character, which this trend needs to stop, because it won't be good if the original female character was gender swapped to a male version for no reason. With her appearance, nothing much to say. Her powers, not as powerful as the other version, but she moves very fast and more durable, that's all. In a film, all she did was stop Reed Richards from using a device to teleport the Earth away, about her losing her planet and becoming the Herald of Galactus similar to the other version. But it's more emotional. Even though Sue Storm died as well in that movie, she had no involvement but saved Johnny Storm instead from him being the sacrifice of stopping Galactus. And with Galactus, with both versions of the character. With the Fox there was nothing much to say, but he was extremely huge and intimidating, which gives the impression that is very powerful. That's the only positive I can say about that version of Galactus. With the MCU of Galactus, they almost got it completely right in terms of his appearance, like he's straight out of the comics. That's one great positive. But with the negative, he doesn't come across as very intelligent and powerful. Maybe it's due to lack of research on understanding the character and what he can do with his cosmetic powers. The other issue is that he wanted to give up being Galactus, even though it is his first appearance in the movie before he even started, so that he will be replaced by a baby, which is silly. I wouldn't mind if they given explanations to why he's weakened when he's on Earth, like Reed Richards created a device that weakened cosmic energy, or him not finding any suitable planet to consume, which he gradually becomes weaker. Any of these choices would be great. I just wish he was a bit more intimidating so that he looks like a huge threat against the world. And with Mole Man, that's only in the MCU. Wish he got more involved with dealing with Galactus. They should have done a team up with the Fantastic Four to take down Galactus, with his minions and himself getting involved just to show how dangerous Galactus is, as well as having the military. But for some reason in this version there's no national security or shield, which doesn't make sense just for common sense logic. Which the whole world has to rely on the Fantastic Four to look after them, but the problem is that they're not powerful enough to deal with that like they're Superman. I like to make a final point. Even having a list like no MCU cringe humor, having better visuals, no woke elements and no girl bosses, doesn't mean it's an automatic win for being the best Marvel movie. It's more like doing research on understanding the characters' personalities, powers and abilities, traits, strength and weaknesses, power scaling and costume design. Even though it's hard to start with, but just following the 616 mainline version, but then again, there are such a thing as bad source material where there's certain things that are reconned that don't make sense, so if you want to pick the best story from these comics, you have to do a lot of effort on researching them before putting it on the big screen. Anyway, thanks for watching my video, and I'd like to hear what you think of the comment section below.